I groom ski runs alone at night. 2 winters ago, I lost my best friend on this mountain. Last night I heard his voice on the radio. 11 winters I've cut corduroy into the same hill. It's nothing you've heard of. 2 lifts, a beginner carpet, a lodge that smells like fryer grease and wet gloves. A season that gets shorter and meaner every year. We stay open on school groups and one good week at Christmas, and some years not even that. But somebody has to groom the runs while the town's asleep, and for 9 of those winters, that somebody was me and Denny, 2 snowcats working the dark. People think it sounds peaceful. It isn't peaceful exactly. You sit in a heated cab at 3 in the morning with the tiller screaming behind you and the headlights shoving a cone of light into the falling snow, and the whole world stops about 10 feet past the glass. There's just you, the engine, the radio, and a mountain you only ever get to see a piece of at a time. I loved it. I still don't know how to do anything else. Denny taught me the cat. He was older, calmer, the kind of guy who never rushed and somehow always finished first. He smoked these long cigarettes he rolled at red lights, and he carried his dad's old Zippo, brass gone dark, dented on one corner. And every single time one of us pulled off to work a section alone, he'd key the radio and say the same thing. Keep it between the flags. It's a skier's line. Stay in bounds. Stay on the run. Don't go where it isn't groomed. Denny said it like a blessing. I must have heard it 1,000 times and never once thought about it. He died on the upper face on a Tuesday in February. The mountain runs snow guns up there when it's cold enough, and one of them froze off, and Denny stepped out of his cat to clear it, because that's the kind of thing you do without thinking after enough years. There was a slab above him nobody had any reason to worry about. It went while he was at the gun. I was 2 runs down in the other cat when his call came through, just my name, once, and then the radio open and full of wind. I want to tell you, I dug him out. I got up there fast, and I went at the snow like an animal, but it was black and blowing, and the slide had carried him further than it looked, and I started in the wrong spot. I lost minutes I'll never get back, throwing snow at a place he wasn't. By the time the probe found him, it was over. The county brought him down in the morning, after the wind died. His lighter wasn't on him. Carrie asked me about it at the service. That dumb brass Zippo, his dad's. And I told her it must have come out of his jacket while I was digging, that it was somewhere up there under the snow, and we'd never find it. She nodded, like that was a thing a person could be okay with. I haven't been able to look his wife or his kids straight in the eye since. I kept grooming. You don't rewire yourself overnight, and anyway, the mountain doesn't care. They never hired a second cat. It's been just me up there for 2 winters. Last night the forecast was wrong, which up here is the one thing you can count on it for. It was supposed to taper by midnight. Instead, the wind came around to the north around 2, and the snow stopped falling and started just moving sideways, and the cone of my headlights went from a cone to a wall. Whiteout. You'd think more snow means less seeing, but it's the opposite. It's the wind. It lifts everything that's already down and throws it at you until there's no up or down or near or far, just white, lit from inside by your own headlights, so the whole world glows. I radioed base. We run a kid named Marco on the night desk. Headphones, energy drinks. They're mostly in case a cat goes through the pond ice or a groomer has a heart attack. He told me to bring it in. Conditions were garbage. The hill wasn't opening to anybody in this anyway. Smartest thing anyone said all night. I turned the cat to crawl back down the cat track toward the maintenance road. I don't fully know what happened next. The track on our hill runs along a bench with a drop on the downhill side, and I've driven it half asleep 100 times. But in the white, I must have drifted, because the downhill tread dropped into something soft, and the cab tilted hard, and the whole machine started to slide sideways, slow and sickening. And I did the only thing you can do, which is bail. I went out the uphill door into snow up to my chest, and the cat kept going without me, groaning, lights swinging, until it fetched up against something I couldn't see, and the engine died, and the lights with it. Then it was just me, and the white, and the wind, and the dark, all at once, which I hadn't known was possible. I had the handheld. I called Marco and told him I'd lost the cat, that I was on foot on the upper track, and I needed somebody up the road with a sled. He said, "Hang on." He was calling it in. "Stay put. Stay warm." I told him I couldn't see the track to stay on it. He said it again, "Stay put." And his voice was already getting chewed up by static. Then it was just static. Then even the static had a shape to it I didn't like wind in a pipe, so I clipped the radio to my chest and started walking. Staying put in a whiteout when your machine's dead and you can't feel your face is a good way to become a story, they tell the new groomers. I knew the way down. That's the thing I keep coming back to. I have known the way down this mountain for 11 years. I followed what I thought was the track, keeping the slope rising on my right hand the way it should, and counting lift towers. The lift runs beside the track up there. The towers are 40 meters apart, and 40 meters is maybe 60 steps in deep snow, so I'd reach a tower, put my glove on the cold steel, and count to the next one. 1, 2, 3. The fourth tower didn't come at 60 steps. It came at 140. When I finally walked into it, I stood there with my hand on the steel and told myself I'd lost count, that you can't count in a whiteout. The cold does things to your head. Then I looked up the tower for the cable and the sheave wheel, the way you do without thinking, and there wasn't one. Just a steel pole going up into the white with nothing on top of it. We don't have any poles like that. Every tower on that hill carries cable. I want to be honest about how I handled this, because everyone who's heard the rest of it asks why I didn't just stop. The answer is that stopping was the thing I was most afraid of. So I did what I've always done with something that doesn't make sense. I kept moving, and I kept gathering, because there's always an answer, and the only way to it is more information. I told myself the lift was decommissioned. I told myself I'd wandered onto the old beginner Pumas they pulled out before my time. I told myself a lot of things, and I kept the slope on my right, and I went down. Except the slope kept changing its mind about which way down was. I'd be descending, and the ground would level out under me, and then tilt back up. Gently, so gently I was 20 steps into climbing before I understood I was climbing. I passed a rope line strung with the little orange boundary diamonds, closed, and I followed it, because a rope goes somewhere, and it brought me out at the top of a run. I knew it. It was the upper face where Denny died. I'd been walking downhill for what felt like an hour, and I was standing at the top of the mountain. That's when I sat down in the snow. Just for a second. I want to be clear that I knew better. You learn it the first week. The cold makes you want to sit, and sitting is how they find you in the spring. But my legs gave out under the idea of one more wrong step, and the snow, God help me, the snow was warm. That's the part nobody tells you, and everybody who's been near it knows. Right before the cold takes you, it stops feeling like cold. It feels like getting into bed. It feels like somebody's pulled the blanket up to your chin and turned out the light, and there's nothing in the whole world you have to do. The radio crackled against my chest. "Don't," it said, "don't you sit down on me." And I knew the voice. Of course I knew it. I'd heard it 1,000 times. "Denny," I said, out loud, into the white, like an idiot, like he could see me. "Get up," he said. The signal was bad, his voice coming and going under the wind, but it was him, the calm in it, the little drag on the vowels. "Come on your feet. You sit down out here, that's it, you know that." I told him he was dead. I said it flat, because somewhere in the part of my brain that still worked, I understood what was happening to me, that I was hypothermic, that my temperature had dropped far enough that the body starts shutting off the lights room by room, and that the last thing to go is the part of you that makes sense of things, and right before it goes, it'll hand you anything. A warm bed, a blanket, a dead man on the radio. I'd read about it. People freezing to death have whole conversations with people who aren't there. I told Denny he was a symptom. "Okay," he said, "I'm a symptom. Symptom says, get up and walk." I laughed. It came out wrong, more like a cough, but I got up. Whatever he was, my legs listened to him the way they'd listened to him for 9 winters, and that's a thing the cold can't touch, the part of you that spent that long trusting a voice in your ear in the dark. "Good," he said. "Now don't go down. I know you want to. Everything down there's a lie. You're gonna keep the slope on your left now, not your right, and you're gonna walk across the hill, not down it. Traverse, you hear me? Across. Across goes nowhere," I said. "Across is the bowl. Across is where I need you. Trust me or don't, but my way you're walking, and your way you're a snow angel. Pick." I traversed. This is the part that's hardest to explain to people who weren't cold enough to understand it. The whole time, the mountain wanted me to go down, not the way a slope wants you to go down, more than that. Down had a pull to it like a hand on the back of my coat. Down was where the warm was, and the warm was where the rest was, and every step across the fall line was a step I had to argue myself into. My body kept trying to turn and let gravity have me, and down there, far down, through a tear in the white, I could see light, yellow light, warm light, the unmistakable glow of the lodge, with every window lit. And I swear to you, I could hear it, a door opening and closing, glasses, the jukebox in the corner that only plays 4 songs, people laughing the way people laugh when they're warm and a little drunk, and the storm is outside and not their problem. "Denny," I said, "the lodge. I can see the lodge." "No, you can't," he said. "Keep walking. I can hear people. There's people down there." "There's no people down there. Walk." But there were, and under the music and the glasses I could hear, clear as the radio, Denny laughing, his actual laugh. The big stupid one I hadn't heard in 2 years and didn't know I'd been starving for until it came up the hill at me out of all that warm yellow light. Somebody opened the lodge door and the laughing got louder, and a shape stood in the doorway, backlit, and called my name, and it was his voice. It was Denny's voice calling me down out of the cold to come in where it was warm, and the radio on my chest, in Denny's voice, said very quietly, "That's not me. Whatever you do, that down there is not me." I stood on the side of the hill with my dead friend's voice coming from 2 directions, and I did the only thing I could think of, which is a thing he taught me actually, for telling a real edge from a wind lip when you can't see. You test it. You make it do something. "If that's you down there," I called toward the light, "come up and get me. I can't make it down. Come up." The shape in the doorway didn't move. The voice told me to come down. It was warm. Everyone was waiting. Why was I being like this? It had every word right. It just wouldn't come up the hill. It made excuses the way a thing makes excuses, when it can only do one thing, and that thing is wait for you to come to it. And the longer it talked, the more I noticed the lodge was on the wrong side of the mountain. Our lodge sits at the bottom of the front side. This light was below me and to the north, out past the bowl, out past anything, hanging in the white where there's nothing but air, and a long way down. I turned my back on it. The light went out like a thumb on a candle. The laughing stopped, and the quiet that came after wasn't the quiet of an empty mountain. It was the quiet of something that had been making all that noise, turning, instead, to look at me. "Move," Denny said, and there wasn't any calm left in it. "Now, fence lines ahead of you, the old bottom of the bowl rope. It's buried, but it's there. Get to it, follow it left, and do not stop." I went. I couldn't see the rope, so I waded with my arms out, sweeping, and where the snow packed harder, I dropped to my knees and dug for the line with both hands. I found it on the third try. Not the rope. I thought it was the rope, a thing under the snow my fingers closed around, and it closed back. It was a hand, palm up, and when my fingers went around it, the fingers folded over mine, gentle, the way you take somebody's hand to lead them, and for one single second, the hole broken inside of me lit up, because I thought it was him. I thought Denny was under the snow, holding my hand to bring me home. And then the radio crackled against my chest in Denny's voice, 20 feet from my hand, and I understood that he was the voice, and the voice was the radio, and that meant the hand in the snow, the warm hand folding so kindly over mine, was not him. I have never let go of anything so fast in my life. I tore my hand back, and the snow where it had been just sat there, smooth, undisturbed, no arm, no body, nothing, like I'd dreamed it, except my glove came up smelling like cigarette smoke, the long, rolled kind, the kind Denny smoked. I knelt there with my own hand stinking of a dead man's habit, and I think I made a sound I've never made before or since. "I told you not to stop," the radio said, almost soft. "Get up, left, go." I went left along the buried rope, and I talked the whole time, because if I stopped talking, I was going to start screaming. I asked him the things, how he was here, why I couldn't find him, why he was a voice and not a man, why he'd let me grab that thing in the snow. He answered some of it, not all. I've thought a lot about what he chose to tell me and what he didn't, and I think he was rationing. I think he had a certain amount of himself left, and he was spending it carefully. "The slide didn't kill me," he said. "That's the part I'd take back, if I could, letting you believe any different. You think I went quick. I didn't go quick. I was down there in the dark under all that snow, and I was still me, and something came and got me before the cold could. It doesn't kill you. It keeps you. There's a lot of us down here. You'd be surprised who." I told him I dug. I told him I started in the wrong place and lost the minutes, and it was my fault. 2 years of it, my fault. I went at the wrong spot. "You dug where I'd have dug," he said. "The slide moves the snow. You can't see it move at night. Nobody finds the right spot first. Nobody. You hear me? It was never the digging. There was no digging fast enough for the thing that wanted me. You did everything a person does. I felt you up there. I felt you the whole time. You did everything. I'm not going to pretend that fixed 2 years, but I'd been carrying a stone I didn't know the size of until he lifted it off me, and I walked the rope and let myself cry into the wind, where it didn't cost anything. Then he told me the part I think about now more than any of it. "It wears you," he said. "Down here, slow. You stay yourself for a while, and then you start being the lodge, and the warm, and the voice at the door. That's all those were. That's everybody who went in before me." A long crackle. "I got maybe a little of being me left, and I'm spending it on you, because you came up this hill 2 years ago for me, and you dug your hands raw in the wrong place, and I figured I owed you a way out before I'm gone." His voice was breaking up now, the signal eating him a word at a time. "But here's the thing you've got to hear, and you've got to hear it, because I know you. You'll come back up here. You always come back. You'll keep grooming this mountain, and one night it'll be like tonight, and you'll be out in it again, and the radio's gonna crackle, and it's gonna sound just like me." A pause that was almost the whole of him. "And it won't be me, not any more. Whatever calls you by name out of a storm up here, after tonight, don't you answer it. Don't you trust it. I won't be in it. Promise me." I promised him. I'd have promised him anything. The rope ran out at the maintenance road. I didn't recognize where I was at first, because I'd come at it from a direction that doesn't exist. But there were the sodium lights on the road, orange and ordinary, so ugly and so beautiful I almost couldn't stand it. And there was the snow sled coming up with 2 headlights bobbing. Marco and the lift mechanic, out looking for the body they figured they'd find in the spring. "Almost there," Denny said. "Way off now, way down under the static. Go on, they got you from here." "Denny," I said, "is it really, are you really?" There was a long pause, long enough that I thought he was already gone. Then it came up out of the noise, faint, the last clear thing, and I could hear the tired smile in it, the way you can hear a smile over a radio when you've known somebody long enough. "Keep it between the flags," he said, and then there was just wind. They found me on my knees in the middle of the road, arms out, still feeling for a rope that wasn't there, frostbite on 3 fingers, the start of it on my face, core temp low enough, the medic kept saying my name on the ride down to keep me from going under. I wasn't making sense, I know that. I told them about the towers with no cable and the lodge on the wrong side of the mountain and the hand in the snow, and they rode down hypothermic, confused, and you know what? Fine, that's what I'd write too. Here's what they couldn't write down. I came off that mountain 4.5 miles from where I lost the cat on the backside, across 2 drainages and a ridge you can't walk in a night. Can't walk at all in deep snow that doesn't connect to where I started by any route a person can take. They found the cat where I left it, on the upper track, nose against a snow gun shed. They keep telling me I must have walked in a circle. I didn't walk in a circle. A circle brings you back where you started. I came out the other side of the world, and when they cut my jacket off me in the clinic, something fell out of the inside chest pocket and skittered across the tile, and the nurse picked it up and asked if I wanted to hold onto it. I held it so hard my hand cramped. A brass Zippo, dark with age, dented on one corner, his dad's, the one that wasn't on him when the county brought him down, the one I told his wife was lost forever under the snow on the upper face 2 winters ago, where it should still be. It still smells like smoke. It still sparks first try, every time, even in the cold. I went back to work. I know how that sounds. I told you, you don't rewire yourself overnight, and somebody's got to cut the runs while the town sleeps. And it turns out there's a kind of person who, when a mountain tries to keep them and they get out, has to go back up every single night and prove it. So I'm up there, and I carry his lighter on every shift in the inside chest pocket, even though I've never smoked a day in my life. I like knowing it'll spark when nothing else will. I like knowing there's one warm thing I can make happen with my hands. Up there in all that cold and dark. He was right, by the way, about me coming back, about the rest of it too. Twice now the storms come around to the north, and the radios drop to static, and somewhere down in that static something has said my name, in a voice I'd know anywhere, a voice I'd give a great deal to answer, a voice with a little drag on the vowels, and a laugh I've been starving for since a Tuesday in February. I keep my hand on the lighter. I keep the slope where it belongs. I keep walking, and I don't answer it.